And it stopped?
I don't know.
That was really good what you just said.
Mustn't have been that long. I wonder if it's going to create a whole new thing.
I bet you it is.
Well, let's see. Let's see if people come back. Give it a couple of seconds.
Stream ended. Womp womp.
Sorry.
Yep.
I'll give it a few minutes. I am using Stream now, so it should go back to the same page.
Okay.
If anyone's on YouTube, just reboot. Tell them to refresh the page.
Back up.
Okay. So we're good.
I don't even know where we ended though.
I don't know where we ended either, but I'll continue with what I was saying about woodworking. Woodworking is more artistic, and I think people when they come up with design variations, design changes, when it ventures into the world of art,
it stopped when we were talking about Dougie.
Oh no! So I talked about a bunch of stuff that doesn't get on the show.
Oh my gosh, that
Lovely.
was.
Well,
so you want me to say the question again?
You guys, should I repeat the whole thing?
I think I really like the whole science angle to it.
Okay.
So the question was from Logan. He said, half joking, half serious. Did Matt have to get any feature/design permissions from Shannon's design in the hand tool school?
And I believe I immediately said, nobody's copying anything Shannon does. So anyway, when it comes to things like this, especially like tool cabinets, shop furniture, stuff like that, it's hard to say that anyone is doing anything really original. Mm-hmm. Mike Pekovich has a fantastic tool cabinet out there. I know Matt probably took some influence from that. Shannon's cabinet is fantastic as well. But none of these people are creating anything that is entirely unique. Mm-hmm. We're all doing stuff that were built upon the work of other people. It gets a little weird in woodworking because we venture into an artistic area, and when we talk about art, people tend to be a little bit more protective of their ideas. For me personally, my brain doesn't think that way. I come from a science background. In the world of science, you are basically building, like everything you do is built upon the work of someone else. That's how we get cures for diseases. That's how we progress as a people, mm-hmm. is by not having every person reinvent the wheel. But in woodworking, it's like if you don't claim you reinvented the wheel, you don't have the right to talk about that thing. Right. You know what I mean? So it's like everybody who makes a new thing, not everybody, I'm generalizing, a lot of people who make something new that really isn't something new, they want kind of full credit for it, or the expectation is if you're going to build something and teach other people how to build it, that you better be the person who originated that idea. And that's just not how the world works. We all get better by building upon the work of other people before us. Mm-hmm. That's why I've never subscribed to this whole like my design, my original idea, my me. It's not like that for me. Other people though, you got to be careful. There are people who are very protective of their ideas and their designs, and they've got a right to be. I'm just not that type of person. So when it comes to a tool cabinet, I don't think Matt could do anything that would make me nervous about him taking someone's ideas when it comes to a wall-hanging tool cabinet.
There you go.
These ideas are pretty well established.
He said, Tim says, is it true that wood designs can't be legally protected, so all designs are free to use and copy if you go ahead and buy their plans?
I'm not going to really get into the legalities of this. There's a bunch of articles that really get into the weeds on how woodworking designs
We had this conversation over in the woodworking community where a woman was like, sending very threatening legal letters to a bunch of makers, and it was just,
In the end, regardless of the true end of the day legalities, like what can you be sued for, you can't stop anybody from starting to process legal action against you. Even if it's something they can't win, is that something you want to deal with, mm-hmm. right? Like whether they have a case or not, do I want to go to court over taking someone else's design? So even if things aren't truly defendable, you still have to deal with this mm-hmm. if you step on someone's toes.
Yeah. And there's just ethical and moral things too, and giving credit, blah, 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 blah.
Well, great example. I don't want to get into the weeds, but I showed how to build a Maloof-inspired rocker, mm-hmm. okay? I am actually working with Charles Brock on that. And I'm giving him a royalty fee because I'm using his templates and designs.
Right.
But did he make that chair, like in terms of designing the original? His is a copy of Maloof's chair, but he's getting a royalty for it. This stuff gets really, really messy. Mm-hmm. And this is why when we first launched it, I can't remember what the percentage was, but I kind of made a big deal about this when we first launched that project. I gave a percentage of the sales to the Maloof Foundation because it just didn't feel right to make money off of a design, even though the money was going to someone who was also making money off of the design. It gets messy, but you know, legal stuff like that, it's better just to not step on people's toes. I think we're finished. We're pretty close to the end of the show, aren't we?
Yeah, well, I got a few more questions. Okay. Matt Van Overloop says, 2 Ruobo storage cabinet questions. Can you still use holdfasts? And do I mess the shelf? Do I mess the shelf in the split top plans, or can I leave that out?
I've gotten this question a lot, and the problem is I haven't actually designed this thing yet. So I don't know. People are like, should I include the rails that will hold the shelving in place? I don't know if my cabinet is just going to sit right on top of those cleats, or if I have to do something different. I don't know for sure. Absolutely, all of the functionality of the bench will be intact. I'm not going to build something that gets in the way of holdfasts.
Okay.
But I don't know. I wish I had a better answer for you, but I don't know yet.
Jeannie Grassi is in the chat, and she says, I noticed you weren't holding the knob on your Festool router. I hate holding on there. It loosens while I'm working without realizing it. Any ideas?
Keep your hand off it, like I do. I don't have a problem with it loosening. I find that knob it's a very satisfying knob to use, one that the more you crank on it, the tighter it gets. So I think if you give it a really good turn and tighten it up, it shouldn't loosen unless you really have like a death grip on it as you're using it and you don't realize you're pulling back. I can usually tell when I'm starting to turn the knob as opposed to just kind of letting it freely rotate in my hand. So that's not too much of a problem for me. But you can vary your grip on a router. You don't have to grab it by the handle. Sometimes, as you saw in that video, you could be more comfortable with your hand on top of the router. You know, it doesn't have to be that way. So as long as you have a stable hold on it and the router isn't going anywhere, hold it wherever you want. There's times I hold it by the base. You got to be careful there because the base is where you're going to interact with the bit if you slip. So definitely do that with take some care if you're going to do that. But I hold a router whatever way I can to get the work done.
John just did a super chat, and he said, what does Marc say about using fast-setting epoxy, excuse me, I had a coffee burp, on knots versus slow-setting epoxy?
Well, fast setting is more viscous. It's thicker. It's like very, very cold corn syrup or something like that. It's not going to lay down into the knot as well. You'll probably get more air bubbles. If you do use that stuff, probably not a bad idea to get a heat gun or something, maybe pre-warm the knot and try to keep the conditions that you're in warm because the temperature will affect how runny the epoxy is. And then once you put the epoxy on the surface, maybe hit it with a little bit of that heat and you might find that it lays down better into the knot. Slow setting epoxies are just much better at this. You want to make sure that the epoxy doesn't pour out of the bottom of the knot, so tape it off. But they're just pourable, so you can kind of drop it in there, use a little heat or a quick flame or something to get rid of the bubbles. Slow setting stuff is just going to be easier to work with.
Brian Jones says, what is a good outdoor finish that can withstand hot, humid summers and cold, wet winters?
Epiphanes is a finish that I've been using and experimenting with for years.